We're live. Nice little bounce back from the UConn Huskies winning 99-44, albeit against University of Maryland Eastern Shores. You're live, locked on live. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As you guys know, great couple months here for Locked On UConn. Really appreciate you guys doing either live shows or just listening every day or telling friends, family, whoever. Getting ready to cut that check to Husky Ticket Project for 10% of our revenue to them. Helping send kids. I'm sure they had some kids at the game tonight and sending kids to women's games, etc. If you're enjoying the show, take a moment to subscribe, follow, leave a review wherever you listen. Thanks again for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. Special shout out to our everydayers. Couldn't do this without you. Again, UConn 99, UMES 45, Maryland Eastern Shores. Did not know that Art Shell went there. That was a pretty cool little highlight during the game that he was I think a left tackle for them. Pretty cool stuff. Bounce back in style. There were some interesting moments. There were some lulls. I think I responded to a couple people on Twitter talking about how I wasn't exactly expecting them to look amazing. They're coming back from Maui. Alex is a concussion. You're without essentially your quarterback of this team, but it was okay. They played pretty well. Starters had Liam had 16 points, was 7-7 from the free throw line. My dad and I both were acting, talking like this kid really has kind of taken to this where he's going to the hoop a little more. I think that was if there's one thing I will say from the start, they turned down a lot of open threes to start the game, and I think that what was hammered into their brains is, look, guys, we're not getting the calls we want, but who cares about that? We need to not necessarily force it, but get downhill, use your athleticism, be smart. You don't have to always shoot the three if it's open, especially when we talk about, we haven't even really dove into some of the guys maybe having some shooting issues because they're shooting when they're open versus shooting and hunting spots that they're efficient at, right? That's one thing that we learned about this offense when they were talking about this last year with that Michael Cohen piece about how this team really works on analytics. So if you're a top of the key 3-point shooter, you're always trying to find that spot. Like Solo is always trying to find those little wing threes, not necessarily corner threes. And it seems like he shoots the best percentage there. So these are the things that I think that they're trying to hammer in that, it's the little details. So that's why we're seeing a little bit of a struggle. Jaylen Stewart had 16 points as well, was super efficient, 4 of 7, 7 of 8 from the free throw line, had 7 rebounds and had 3 assists. Samson was perfect from the field. Still would like to see Tarris starting, but if this is the Samson Johnson we get for the rest of the year, I can live with it. He had 2 blocks, 2 steals, did not have a ton of fouls, which is, a very good sign because it really doesn't matter who Samson Johnson plays. He fouls a ton. Solo ball, 12 points, was 2 of 5 from 3. I thought he showed a little improvement on defense. I still think we're getting beat off the dribble quite a bit by guards that are not as good. So that is that's probably the only thing that's disconcerting to me about this is the defensive effort from the guards. But bench impact, Jayden Ross, 10 points, 10 rebounds, added 3 assists. Tarris Reed, again, dominant on the glass, 12 rebounds, 10 points. Aidan Mahaney, probably his best game, 11 points off the bench. I thought he did a better job. I still want to see him be more aggressive, but I thought there was a little bit more of that today. Overall, they shot 54% from the floor, 92% from the free throw line, and had 48 total rebounds, 11 offensive, 23 assists. I thought was a nice improvement from the last game against Dayton where it was a lot less. Really kind of, it's one of those things where it's tough to evaluate coming against a team that's literally the worst or second worst team in college basketball as far as Ken Palm is concerned. But regardless, all right, we got some people waiting in the show, including my co-host Dan. So I'm going to take a break and do the only large ad of the program. And then when we come back, we'll bring Dan in and get some folks in on the show. What's up, guys? I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to climb Mount Everest to get something, to eat an entire jar of pickles or in one sitting just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no nonsense. So Mint Mobile. I don't have my phone on me right now, but when this deal came, $15 a month, 100% was on board. It's a 3-month plan. I had my doubts, but listen, it's worked out great. Switching was unbelievable and simple. Probably the hardest part was switching from the provider that I was on, which was T-Mobile. But after that, saving money has been, pretty awesome, right? So all 3-month plans are just $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. Every plan comes with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text delivered on nation's largest 5G network. You can even keep your phone, your number, all your contacts, no headaches, no just savings. So get new customer offer. You get a 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/LockedOnCollege. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnCollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/LockedOnCollege. Up $45 upfront payment is required. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speed slow, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plans. Additional tax, fees, and restrictions may apply. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, let's get Dan in here, and then we're going to go Doug and then Tyler. What's up, my guy? How you doing?
How we doing? How are we?
All right. What did you think? What did you see?
I can hear a little cold in the voice. I'll do my best to carry my weight. Yeah, I thought a nice rebound game tonight against a lesser opponent, like you said, probably one of the worst teams in Division I basketball, but they cover the spread. I think they won by almost 50. Some stuff that I liked, some stuff I liked that they seem to fix a little bit, but some other themes that seem to be kind of still be lingering. But overall, I'm not going to be mad at a 50-point win. I thought Jayden Ross's his jumper was not great in the first half, but he picked it up. He makes 2 threes in the second half. Tarris Reed continues, going on a tear. Another double-double for him. 4-4 from the field. He's one of the most efficient players in all of college basketball right now. We noted the lineup change. Tarris still comes off the bench, but with Karaban out, I'm not sure how much weight we can throw into the roster changes tonight. We'll see what happens going into Baylor next week. Liam shot another tough shooting night from Liam. I think he was either 1 of 8 or around there from 3. So that's 2 games in a row. Again, not worried about him shooting. Like you said, this team's getting open looks. They're just not. They've shot 37% from 3 tonight, so a better second half than first half. That's kind of going to be the story of this team going forward. Their depth just drains the other team on offense, and that opens up some things in the second half for UConn. Solo ball shot really well coming off screens once again. I noted on Twitter during the game he looked like Jordan Hawkins running around screens. Isaiah Abraham makes most of his minutes in the second half. But yeah, I mean, on the bright side, UConn is now undefeated in the continental United States. So we got that going for us.
That's right.
One thing you also noted that I wasn't worried about coming into the game, but we haven't been shooting particularly well from the free throw line. Just 73% coming into the game. That changes tonight. They go 25 to 27 from the line tonight. They shot 93%. They win the rebounding battle 48 to 23. 23 assists to just 4, which makes the next stat even more surprising. This is the 4th game in a row. I highlighted it on Twitter. I've mentioned it on the podcast. 20 plus fouls committed for a UConn team is very rare for a Dan Hurley basketball team. We have now played 4 games in a row, including a 50-point blowout where we've committed 20 plus fouls in a game. In a game where you hold the opponent to just 4 assists, I don't know why there's 21 fouls committed. So I think you saw a lot on the telecast. Hurley was doing a lot of coaching tonight. Every single foul that seemed to be committed, he's yanking the guy. It was like a flashback to the old Jim Calhoun days.
Calhoun days, yeah.
He'll pull you out and ream you out. Hurley was very subdued tonight. He read the room well. You couldn't hear him yelling or anything. It was just a coaching night.
He didn't have to.
Wanted to get back to no, of course not. But not going to give anyone a reason after all the hoopla over the week of.
All right. I'm so glad you brought that up because let me just thank you for teeing me up, and then we're going to get Doug in here and then Tyler. But can I just say something after what we saw, which was a freaking awesome day in college football? Tons of upsets. UConn will beat UMass in our world. Then I mean, how many brawls and coaches being on the field and freaking out over everything, and CBS and that guy Kyle Boone and whoever else is talking think pieces about Dan Hurley. I mean, I watched that Georgia Tech game last night. I'm like on a couch with all my family. I have a fever. I'm like watching the game, whatever, right? And so, I mean, Kirby Smart was literally on the field pretty much all the entire overtime, like working the officials, blah blah blah. Like, I can't imagine that's considered appropriate. And I know that it's not an apples to apples comparison, but if we're talking college sports right now and high profile coaches, does Ryan Day have any culpability for his team literally losing their shit and having a brawl in the middle of the Ohio State field? I mean, guys, and then NC State and North Carolina also had a brawl because of the same thing, that NC State tried to plant a flag on the field. So I'm not trying to take this into another realm, but the idea that Dan Hurley has to change it all is so overblown. And my favorite comment of the weekend, and I retweeted it, I think a couple hours ago. She's been on the show. It's not her real name, but she's the press secretary for UConn, Marie LeBrun. She said,
awesome Twitter follow.
My column, how Dan Hurley needs to smile more. Like, come on. That's essentially what they're telling him, is like, hey, don't take it so seriously. I mean, it's not that big a deal. It's not war, right? It's his job. Yeah. Take your job seriously. It's a joke.
We're back from Maui. I couldn't wait for this game to, one, get played, and two, just to finish so that we can move on. There were so many coaches after UConn's final game in Maui, after all that hoopla with the refs and Dan complaining too much on the sidelines, like 4 or 5 instances just in college basketball alone of coaches kind of going irate against not just around the whole college basketball spectrum, but specifically in Maui. It was a thing. We're back home. It's over. We don't have to talk about it anymore. You mentioned the article from Kyle Boone. He got absolutely crushed online for that article. But one thing I do wanted to take from that article, which I thought was constructed, was why it was written, was the changes to some of the college basketball rules and how officials were taught coming into the season that they're not going to allow that stuff anymore. It reminds me of some of the stuff that the Patriots would go through in the offseason, where during the coaches committee in the offseason, every coach gets to submit like 1 or 2 rule changes that they want to be seen. And every single year, as a Patriots fan, Belichick would just get shut down because they thought that the coaches, that he knew something they didn't, he would use it against it later on. That seemed like kind of like literally a rule created for Dan Hurley, but we'll see how that sticks.
Let me add,
going forward.
My question would be, did they not tell the coaches that these rule changes were being instituted? I mean,
exactly.
It's a joke.
Exactly.
All right,
let's find out about that now.
Doug, come on, man. You've been waiting patiently. What's up, brother?
Hey guys, how you doing? I will admit, before the game, I did have a little PTSD before the game, but that was quickly going away after we got 5 minutes in, so that was all good. You hit on a lot of things I was going to say. One, I absolutely noticed as the camera panned to Hurley that he was doing much more coaching for each play, which is good, great to see. Really giving them pats on the back, kind of giving them some ideas what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. So I think that's we're not going to rehash anything in the past, but I think that's just a great direction right now. I also noticed, especially in the beginning, I was kind of surprised how almost everybody was driving to the hoop and they were like not taking threes. I don't know if that was planned by Hurley and the staff to maybe let's get some work on driving to the hoop a bit, but that was very noticeable to me.
Do you think honestly? I think it's a great point. Do you think that was? I said it to my father. I think that was obviously the directive of this team. The coaching staff clearly said to them, "Hey guys, we know we want you to shoot, but we're not shooting enough of these essentially like where they consider quote unquote hot spots, like where each of these guys is really good at." So I think they gave up some open threes to get better looks, and it helped because they got to the free throw line more, and then they just were more efficient today. I think that was the directive from Dan and the staff.
Yeah,
that was the most free throws they've shot all year, so it seemed like a concerted effort to really push the issue and be the more aggressive team. You got to smack. I think UConn throughout this season, through 6 or 7 games, they've started slow, whether that be through sloppy play, some guys just trying to do too much, being a little hesitant and trying to make that extra pass and getting sloppy with the ball. But there was a little bit of that tonight, but I think coming into tonight, they seemed to really just kind of take a deep breath, tried to reset and work on some things and have some teachable moments, which was evident on the telecast.
Yeah, and two other quick things here. One thing I was noticed with McNeeley, today he was 4 for 12 from the floor, 1 from 8 from 3, and he was 7 from 7 from the free throw line. So he got almost half his points there. But it's really interesting that ever since he had that hip issue, his threes have dramatically decreased as far as accuracy. I don't know if that's still lingering. I don't know if maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it's just kind of ironic or
it's something to take note of. He was dunking in the layup line before the last game in Maui, but he could still be nursing some things. I don't think that even if he sat tonight, if he was ailing too badly, they probably would have been fine. But I'm not worried about him. He's such a pure shooter. If he is nursing a hip and it's affecting his shot, I think that's something you'll see. He's already been hot from 3 in other games this year, so I think he'll be okay.
Yeah,
something to take note of.
And the last thing I got is, to me, you got. I mean, I know he's not the prototypical point guard that Danny wants. He wants a very tall, 6'8" point guards. But man, Noel looked. He looked good tonight. He looked like a point guard. He looked like he was bringing up the ball, looking for the people, dishing out to the right people. To me, you got to start him. And bring Diarra off the bench. I think that's where he's more comfortable coming from. So we'll see what happens.
Could be headed that way.
Was excellent as a point guard tonight.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you, Doug. All right, let's bring in Tyler. What's up, Tyler?
Guys? I got my Exit 68.
There it is. There it is. Hang on.
You got it too?
Let's go. Let's rock and roll, baby. We're live.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, no, I feel like as an analyst, I've been humbled by Maui. So I don't know. I feel like it's hard to take much from this game. Obviously, it's nice to see him come out and win a big one. Kind of picking up what that guy said. I really like Noel. I mean, I remember watching his YouTube videos and just thinking like, yeah, this is gonna be my guy. And yeah, he just looks comfortable out there. Like this is natural point guard. I think Diarra is just like a natural, just like he wants to attack the rim. You can tell there's so many times that he does attack the rim and it drives me nuts. And there's other times you can tell he wants to attack the rim and he does hold back. So I do think Noel is a more natural fit in like the starting role and bring Diarra in to be that kind of change of pace. But I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I think. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, similar to what you said about Diarra coming off the bench, I think he's probably more at this point. He's been doing it for 3 years for this team. Coming off the bench, he might just have that like a closer in baseball mentality. Like you're going to come in and just go balls to the wall for 15, 20 minutes and try to push the issue, attack on defense. You got fresh legs the whole game. You're not going to be gassed playing 30, 35 minutes a game like a starting guard would be anywhere else. So I think he looks to come into the game with that mindset.
Right. I was surprised to see Sampson starting tonight. I just thought that, we would see what it's like starting Reed. And, I don't quite understand what's going on there. But,
I mean, I think we'll find out next game.
Do you guys agree, though, that even though, again, to Tyler's point that this was – Maryland Eastern Shores and all that stuff. It was still nice to see Sampson playing probably his best full game with no fouls. You can still feel like me and my dad are sitting next to each other going, don't reach. Like, you know what I mean? Like still some of that like itchy trigger finger from Sampson where every once in a while he tries to sneak his hand in the cookie jar. Tarris does it too. But like outside of that, I mean, I thought he did a good job. Like a couple points, like, like where he was just like, all right, I let a guy, make a layup on me, but it wasn't like he's not trying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like Donnie Marshall, who I have my issues with as far as being an analyst and especially being a UConn guy, made a couple good points that this team, in particular down the stretch when they were up by 100, was still kind of in that mode of they don't want to, disappoint Dan Hurley. Yeah. So they're trying too hard versus like their best ability is availability and not to get a million fouls, so he has to take them out. So, play hard, but don't foul. Like essentially,
Mhm.
like that should be the mantra. And I think Sampson took that to heart tonight. He had a couple great blocks. I thought the weak side help on Sampson going for blocks was a lot better tonight. The reaction to that, Jayden Ross was everywhere. He had 10 rebounds. He didn't shoot it great, but he made a couple threes towards the end.
He was 4-6 for the game. He actually finished
Right.
pretty good
So
with a
he
good
missed
second half.
early. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he hasn't been shooting it. I think you tweeted out something like where he was only shooting like 4 of his last 24.
23, I think 17% coming into the game.
Yeah, so I think those things are really good takeaways from a game that you should win. But I would also give some credit to our boy Jared Kotler from Connecticut Scoreboard Podcast said, covering this spread is kind of indicative of, and by a lot actually, should kind of give you some, warm and fuzzies because
it wouldn't be good if
this
this game
game
by 15.
if this is a 20-point game, then you're like, we suck. We're essentially Seton Hall. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's more like if they had come out 1 by 15, that would be a negative signal. Like I don't think we can take a positive signal because they covered.
It's neutral.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take some inventory on
15, 20.
Let's take inventory on where we are right now through these games. They have beat the living pulp out of all the teams that they should have beat badly. And then they lost 2 games by 3 total points in Maui. The last day in Maui was awful. That is a really bad loss.
Yeah.
It is what it is. That's a bad loss. Tonight, between Sampson and Tarris Reed, 7 of 7 from the field, 16 rebounds, 5 blocks, 5 steals, 4 blocks. They're perfect from the field. It's as efficient as it's going to get. So going into the biggest game of the season thus far against Baylor at home next week, they kind of reset some things, get some confidence churning back in the right direction. Dan Hurley knew exactly that was the game plan coming in tonight. And I think that if that was the plan, just trying to reset these guys' brains before going into a tough stretch of the schedule, get some confidence back, they accomplished that.
Yeah. Well, like, what do you guys think? Like, I expect these next 3 games to be better, and I expect better results. But worst case scenario, like, suppose they drop these next 3 games.
No, I don't think they're going to do that.
I don't think they will. But like, so what's? I guess what I'm asking is like, what is the what's the range of outcomes here for this team as far as like NCAA tournament seeding? Like, best case scenario. Yeah, just give me like the best case scenario. If they hit their upside, they win these next 3 games.
Yep.
And
I think they got to get back on the voters' good graces. I'm very interested to see after dropping 3 in a row in Maui and winning by 50 against a lesser opponent, nevertheless. But whether they're in the top 25, it doesn't matter.
I don't care about that.
I don't either. The next 3 games, they're going to really have a good chance to get back on the voters' good graces and work back towards the top 15, top 10, whatever. One thing I'm going to take really close note of, I think all of the kind of overplaying, trying to do too much, is almost a product of playing against some of these teams that are just so inferior to you that you have the chance to make it. There's too many chances for them to be making these dumb plays and making those extra passes, and some of those forced plays might not even be there against teams like Baylor and Gonzaga. So these guys might have a chance to just kind of relax and just play hard and not have to think too much where some of those mistakes might be happening.
Right. And we also have to realize that they've lost 2 of those games by a collective 3 points.
3 points. Yeah.
And I do think like they got beat by Dayton, but Dayton looked like a decent team. Colorado was the worst team. That was like the one they were up by 8, and even Hurley said like he thought this was going to be a game that they come out in the second half and they win this game by 20. And that's what I thought too. It felt like okay, they're back.
So looking forward, Maui's over.
Yep,
it's in the rearview mirror. We never have to talk about it again unless they have enough.
But it does matter though, right? Because it does affect, your March potential. So that's why I'm asking you guys. Like, let's suppose, what's their upside? Like, suppose they win their next 3 games, what do they have to do in the Big East? Like, are they still in? They can still get a 1 seed, I would think, right? If they,
I mean, listen, my thing is this. Look, these 3 games that we just lost are going to mean nothing or everything over the next month of the year because. Just looking, I'm staring straight at the schedule right now. They play a tough Baylor team that's talented. They have Jeremy Roach. They have Omir from Miami. Now he's at Baylor. So they have 2 guys that played in the Final Four that are anchoring that team. Plus they have Edgecombe, who's an NBA lottery pick. Okay, so that team is super talented. All right, whether they just beat St. John's in the Bahamas. I really haven't followed them a bunch. They got crushed by Gonzaga, but then Gonzaga loses to West Virginia. So there's no solid teams in college basketball right now. There are some good teams and there are some talented teams, but no one's bulletproof.
Exactly.
So what Dan Hurley has to do over the next month of the season is to at least win 3 of the next 4 games, in my opinion. They can't go 2-2. If they win, they got to win at Baylor. If they were somehow to lose at Texas or in Madison Square Garden against Gonzaga, I'm okay with it. But they got to win their first Big East game against Xavier, and then they go on the road at Butler and against DePaul on New Year's Day. So that stretch is super important. If they go 4-2 in that stretch, we're in business because we're likely going to be undefeated in the Big East, and then we have the rest of the Big East schedule is. I mean, what we've seen is UConn's going to be favored to win it, other than maybe Marquette. Outside of that, Marquette's probably looked like one of the better teams in college basketball.
Yeah, they have.
Creighton looks average. DePaul looks amazing, but they haven't played anybody either. You know what I mean? So Providence looks awful. Georgetown looks awful, even though they're 6-1. St. John's is schizophrenic. So like, it's really about this next month of the year.
Previewing the Baylor game, these are really evenly matched teams right now, both in the metrics and just by how they play. Baylor 22 and Ken Palm, UConn's 24. These ratings haven't updated yet, but Baylor is now 8th in offensive efficiency, UConn's 6th. Baylor's 73 in defensive efficiency, and UConn's 83. So they both do a little bit of the same thing. Something's got to give when they come to Gamble next week. Like you said, you got to win one of the two against the Texas teams. You'd like to see them win at home against Baylor.
Yeah, they need to win this next game. So. I think this is just for morale and just for everything. This is the one they got to get.
I think they've showed that they are not going to get blown out by anybody. It's just not going to happen. They play too hard.
What we got to take away is that they didn't. The third game was just like it was a back-to-back. It's like there's no time to prepare. Just what it was. But what's up with Karaban? Is anything? Is he going to be?
So he had a concussion. He is still not in protocol. He was like shooting before the game, but he was in street clothes for it. Obviously, I think he may miss. I think he may miss Baylor, but I think they'll run him through a battery test to see if he's capable. I think the most important thing for him is just get healthy, man. I mean, I get it. I don't think you will either, but head injuries are a little weird.
We need him for Baylor.
But yeah, I think going forward, I will be honest, tonight, if you look at the numbers, the officiating was good because it really was kind of even, but I think that's the biggest factor of if UConn gets a decent whistle, they're pretty talented, and once they start to find their flow, think about I made a list, right? We already kind of talked about Ahmad a little bit. How about just the little things like Ahmad on the break on the wing, kind of little drop off pass to Liam that led to that and one. Yeah, that nice. Just stuff like that you can't teach, and these are the things that I think we need to do a little more. Dan Hurley's offensive system is kind of like a concerto, and we need a little more jazz. You know what I mean? There's a little bit. We need a little more improvisation from some of the players that we have that are really good at basketball and haven't finely tuned the art of his offense yet, but can still score points. And you saw a little bit of that with Isaiah Abraham at the end of the game where they had him ISO, where he kind of took advantage of a mismatch. So I think you're going to see a little more of that. I mean, Dan has really shown in his career. Think about who he was before he got to UConn, and even currently with UConn, before he got all these players and decided to run this offense. Pretty set in his ways, where it was we're going to be a gritty team. We're going to score 50, 60 points, and we're going to hold them to 40. And it was a lot of rock fights in that early part of his tenure at UConn. Now they have guys who can score it, and they still need to be fundamentally sound on defense. But look, I think you're going to see a little bit more of a deviation from what he thought this team was going to look like, because it's all young guys, and even though these sophomores have been in the system, they haven't played. Outside of Solo, I mean, even Solo hasn't played that much.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing. I compare this team more to the 22-23 team, but the three best players on that team had spent a year in the system, and the best players in this, it's Solo, who was in the system last year, but you didn't get a ton of minutes. Liam,
that team didn't have as much figuring out to do with the personnel. They knew their eight going into the season. Exactly, even if Joey Cal, they didn't know what he was going to bring to the table. The guy shoots 45% from 3 in his first year in stores, but they didn't know he was going to do that, but he was still going to be the defined 8th guy or 7th or 8th guy. I think this season has 1 or 2 extra guys on the roster that are playable, but they're just trying to, again, fail fast, trying to figure out who those guys are going to be in a big-time game. Like, who can I trust? And I think don't focus too much on the starting lineup decisions right now, but this next stretch of 3, 4, 5 games and then headed into Big East play, I think you'll start to see it get ironed out a little bit. Speaking of which, I thought Jaylen Stewart looked fantastic tonight. He looked like he wanted to like earn his keep and stay in the lineup for 20, 30 minutes going forward. There was a couple instances tonight where he could have passed the ball on the break and he kept it himself just to kind of make a point. Loved it. Keep doing that. He looked big out there tonight. He played big.
I love that pass where I think it was Ross passed it to him, and then he passed right back to Ross to hit the 3. That was real nice, unselfish.
You know, hey guys, real quick, real quick, I'm gonna do my last ad for the day, and then we'll close it out with about 5 or 6 more minutes and see if anyone else wants to jump in. But we're gonna take a quick break. Just kidding. There we go. What's up, everybody? Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. All right, boys, let's get you back in here. I feel like I sound like I don't know if you're Friends fans or if I'm just old right now, but I feel like there's an episode of Friends where she gets a cold and she sounds real bluesy when she sings, and so she's like trying to take everyone's germs for the rest of the show to keep herself sick, so she sounds better when she sings. I
got some people sick in my household too. It's going around.
So. Yeah, I feel like I sound like a young James Earl Jones right now. I have a deep voice, but it's not this deep. But yeah, I think, listen, guys, we're going to get Steve and Silky in here for a second. But before we do, last thing I'll say is Ahmad was great. I thought Samson and Tarris, nice little combo today. I want to see that flipped a little bit. I think what Dan is doing is essentially, we talked about this on the last show, that he's not trying to crush Samson's confidence and say, hey, man, you're done. And so Liam is Liam. Whether he gets his points at the line or at the 3-point line, he's going to be fine. He's a pro. Tyler, your point, Jay Stu looked fantastic. Jay Ross really stepped up in the second half. 10 rebounds tonight in not a ton of minutes. And in Isaiah Abraham, that kid is
going to be a
damn good. He's going to be a good one. And I got to give props to Aidan. I mean, Aidan sat his ass on the bench for a long time in this game, at least the first 12 minutes of the game. And then he finished 11 points when he got his opportunity. He made 1 3. His shot still doesn't look fluid yet, but you know what? You don't score 1,000 points in college basketball by being a terrible player. So he's got some stuff he's got to figure out, but he's getting close. All right, Steve, get in here. Where you at? Nope, his mic's not on. Silky, what you got? Nope, this one. Yep.
Am I on? Am I on?
Yeah.
Gotcha. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good.
I gotta see Tarris start at some point. I'm tired of it. I gotta see it. He averages a double every game. I was at the XL Center today. I need to see it happen. He's a double machine. I think he can get 20 and 10 every game. I liked Isaiah Abraham's minutes a lot, actually.
Yep.
He looked very versatile out there, and they finally played a big lineup, which I like to see as well. They had a lot of forwards out there, like 6'7" throughout 1 through 5. They weren't doing that a lot before. I think it was a lot of experimenting stuff before their next big 3 games coming up for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the minutes, they just put them up. If we run through it, we got Liam played the most, 27 minutes. So all the thoughts about his hit pointer, I think he's fine. 27 minutes. Jay Stu had 24. Jayden Ross had 25 minutes off the bench. Samson played 20. Tarris played 17. So I like to see that flipped. Whether Tarris starts or not, I could care less. If this is what Dan Hurley wants to do, and he feels like Samson's earned it, and that won't crush his confidence.
It might not be something about earning playing time. They just might want to play a certain way to start the game.
Right. Well, what I mean by that is
player profile wise than Samson. They play a little faster when Samson's on the court.
Yep.
And Tarris is so efficient, and Marks is he makes his money when he's in the game. He doesn't need a whole lot of minutes to fill it up. They might like that efficiency. I don't know. We'll see if that changes at all.
And then same thing with the guards. It was evenly distributed. Solo played the most, and then you had Ahmad had 17 minutes, which is great. It's his most minutes of the season. Had 5 points and 5 assists. Fantastic numbers for the freshman with only 1 turnover. Aidan had 11 points and 4 assists. Again, only 1 turnover. So again, good efficiency from the guards. Hassan was a little off. He had 6 points. Still had 5 assists.
Lob plays tonight. He found a lob
plays from him
a couple times.
But for whatever reason, he was fouling a lot too. Don't understand it.
4.
How dare you, Tyler?
Yeah, limited minutes.
I should have muted it.
But yeah, no. So how was the crowd?
It was good. Honestly, it wasn't bad. I mean, everything looked pretty filled around that I was looking around. Didn't look at anything too many empty seats. I mean, people left with obviously 4 minutes left to beat the traffic as they usually do, but it didn't seem like people were too screamed away from going to the game. Didn't look like there was a bunch of empties in the upper half and the 200 sections or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, crowd was pretty good. I mean, it wasn't when you get up by 30 to 40 points, most of the time people get up and, no one really got up today. I mean, I know it's a really bad team, but you got to support your team while you're out there.
I will say I was at I'm down in Mystic, Connecticut. I was at the boat parade tonight on the Mystic River, and there was a boat float that passed by with Jonathan the Husky at the front of it, Christmas music playing, and a massive UConn chant broke out. So there was at least one UConn chant.
That's sweet. Love that.
That's awesome. Hey, just want to point something out with college basketball, which is wild, and this is just me being a nerd. But Maryland Eastern Shores is 2-9 this year, and they're 0-9 on the road. So what that tells you is when you're a low major, they're making a lot of money for athletic department. So this was a bye game. They probably played 8 other bye games. Probably
our boy Little Red on Twitter tonight. He thinks they were wearing reversible jerseys tonight.
Probably.
Didn't Arkansas beat them by didn't Arkansas beat them by 70 or 80 recently?
It was 110 to 35.
Yeah, wow.
It was incredible. Insane. Yep. I mean, they're not that great, but it's a feel good game for us, but gotta show it against good opponents. Yeah, at the end of the day, gotta show it against Baylor and Texas. And
what do you think? What do you think? We talked about this before we run. We're gonna jump out of here in a few minutes, but what do you think the next few games we talked about? Think about just leading up to Xavier. So before we even get to the Big East games, Baylor, Texas, and Gonzaga, what do we have to do? Are we 1-2, 2-1, 3-0? What are your thoughts?
2-1. I think 2-1. I think we definitely can beat Baylor. I think it's very similar how we play. As we talked about earlier, the KenPom stats. I think it's very similar game. It's kind of a toss-up. I honestly think it's depending on who plays better. I think we do beat Gonzaga because we have that MSG kind of like a home for us. Texas away, I don't know. I mean, we could go 3-0. It just depends on. I think it depends on the guard play and defense guard play. It really does. See how much they improve in this next 2 weeks and see how much. Because I agree with you, Mark. There's a lot of getting beat by the dribble and they have to foul because they're getting beat off the dribble and step. You gotta be in front of the guy. You can't let him get by you, or else you have to foul him. That's why the 21 fouls are coming out.
You saw some of that tonight. Hurley was doing some coaching on the sideline. He did not want to see guys getting beat off the dribble again. That was clearly a coaching point before this matchup. He pulled a couple guys, not for fouls, but for getting beat off the dribble and then committing a foul.
Honestly, I wanted to see Dan Hurley throw a chair or something tonight. Just as
just double down.
Go. Yeah, just do something crazy.
Just add something to the narrative.
Break
to get back on the good graces of the media. I think after
break a clipboard or something. I don't know, but yeah, no. I know
what I'll say about Dan is. Dan needs to stop going on the Kiss Your Ass podcast that he does all these appearances on, and then because as soon as he starts to kind of lose his crap in games, they're the ones who turn on him first. So if you ever want to come on a show that is with you 100% and support you, Dan, we're here for you, man, because our numbers are just as good and we get you just as much exposure to come on this show than we would to, I don't know, John Rothstein or one of the X68 podcasts that all these guys are with Goodman and everything that are, dunking on you because you
not Exit 68.
Nice. Feel the 68. Feel the 68.
Feel the 68. Sorry.
Yeah, Goodman hates us. Goodman hates us.
But on that note, go to sleep, Mark.
Yeah, but it's so ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and I'm going to plant a flag on that, to talk about something we did that every single show. He needs to stop cowtailing to any of these people who he thinks are good outlets to go on, and because they're not, because they'll turn on him in a heartbeat, in a cocaine heartbeat. They will turn on him. So let's be honest. All right, guys, listen, great show. Tyler, as always, thank you for being on. I appreciate you. Silky, thanks for jumping in at the end. Dan, you're my boy. Thank you so much for jumping on and helping me out so much with the podcast. Anybody else have any parting shots?
I'll be in the house next Wednesday for Baylor. For everyone that's listening, bring the noise. That one's gonna be exciting.
Bring on Baylor.
That's the top 20 opponent right now. We'll see where the top 25 AP rankings shake out on Monday, whether UConn's ranked or not. But one way or another, we're getting into the thick of the season. So the good stuff starts now. Let's roll.
Yeah, they're gonna bring it. They need it. They need to.
Yeah. All right, boys. Have a good rest of your night. Go Huskies.
Thank you. Yes, sir.